Act better on the world stage, that would be one thing, but nothing was said that would make us think that was the case.
Well, you just looked at the visuals yesterday, and even if you weren't listening to the sound, even if you look at the pictures, Donald Trump looked like a scared child. He was kowtowing to Vladimir Putin, who was in complete control of the press conference. And it was not only disappointing as an American to see a U.S. president and what he said, it was disappointing to see an American president look as weak as Donald Trump looked, as fearful as Donald Trump looked, as out of control as Donald Trump looked, as owned as Donald Trump looked. Vladimir Putin owned, look at that picture. Vladimir Putin owns Donald Trump. And both of the men know it. And David Ignatius, I cannot imagine what it's like being Dan Coates this morning, or being somebody in America's intel agencies that have delivered the goods to the commander-in-chief, have proven that the attacks took place and where the attacks came from and how they were launched, and in fact, who specifically launched them and from what buildings halfway across the world they've been launched in. This should be a moment in America's intel community for celebration. They got a chance to prove that they are the best and the brightest on the planet. Instead, they have a president who yesterday defended Vladimir Putin and his spy agencies against forensic evidence that cannot be denied. How do they go to work this morning? What do they do? What is their attitude?
Joe, I think this was a tipping point. I wrote yesterday you could almost hear the fabric of Trump's presidency ripping after he said those words. I made a point of talking to a number of former intelligence officers after he made those comments, and to be honest, they were shocked. Mike Hayden, who ran the agency, said he was stunned to hear the words. He imagined all of the one-word expletives up and down the corridors at the agency, at the NSA, as people watched their screens and saw what had happened, that the president had sided with our adversary against their intelligence. Will Hurd, who's a Republican congressman from Texas, a very courageous operations officer, said he was stunned that an American president would let himself get played by a Russian president that way. Dan Hoffman, who was our station chief in Moscow, said Trump's behavior was like asking a criminal to solve a crime. That's just a sampling of the responses from the intelligence people who've been on the front lines as they watched their president do this. The reaction from Republicans we'll talk about, but I felt that we were beginning to hear from people who've refrained from